Hi everyone, we are on Emma and the Blue Genie and we are on chapter 6, The Palace Beneath the Sand. Sahim flew so fast that Emma could barely breathe. His fingers burnt her neck and Tristan's ears were nearly blown off. Barakash had long vanished beyond the horizon. An endless sea of sand stretched beneath them and Sahim's shadow flitted across the dunes like a giant thundercloud. But then the yellow genie slowed his flight. He dove down toward a group of rocks that stuck rather forlornly out of the sand and landed between them with a big thud. "You've gotten even paler," Sahim breathed into Emma's face. "Did you not like the flight?" "My little golden bug." Then he took a deep breath. When his cheeks ballooned like melons, he blew into the sand. The tiny grains flurried up until they even covered the sun. They burned in Emma's eyes and clogged up her ears. Tristan snapped at them and got a mouthful of crunchy sand. And when the yellow clouds finally sank back, there stood a crumbling palace. Sand poured out of its windows and covered its walls like the icing on a cake. The entrance was so tall that Sahim barely had to duck his head to float through. The inside was as hot as the heart of a fire and as dark as if no beam of sunlight ever entered. But the yellow genie spread so much light that Emma could easily make out all the piles of gold and precious stones Sahim had amassed in his long and evil life. There was treasure everywhere in the halls and chambers, even in the corridors. Emma and Tristan got dragged along. Sahim blew into the darkness and 1,000 torches flared up. Golden cages hung from a soot-black ceiling. From behind the bars came whistles, hisses, and growls. And before Emma could realize what was happening, she and Tristan had also been stuffed into one of the cages. "Ah," the yellow genie warbled as he peered through the bars with his cat eyes. "Yes, you are an excellent addition to my collection. And as for your dog, my servants may have to roll him in turmeric powder." Tristan barked and snapped at Sahim's nose, but he just stubbed his snout on the cage doors. The yellow genie laughed so loudly that sand came raining down from the palace ceiling. Then he drifted to an enormous spiderweb that stretched like a hammock from one end of the hall to the other. Sahim sank into it with a deep sigh. "Servants, bring me honey dates." He yelled that from his hammock, and from the darkness emerged 2 pale spirits. They were of a faint yellow color like slices of lemon cut too thin, and they were teetering under the weight of a bowl the size of a bathtub. With constant bows, they set the bowl on Sahim's naked belly. The sight made Emma's stomach rumble. She hadn't eaten anything since before she'd found Kareem's bottle on the beach. "Do you also dip your prisoners in honey and eat them?" she called out with a trembling voice to the hungry genie. Sahim grabbed one of his servants and used him to wipe some honey off of his chin. His fanged teeth glistened in the torchlight. "Nonsense," he grunted. "They don't taste nice. I just collect them because they are yellow. And their fear gives me strength. Yellow genies love the smell of fear. There is no better scent. And now I want to sleep, so be quiet, or I'll stuff your mouth with sand." Sahim sank back with a burp and immediately started snoring. Emma felt her fear drowning in rage like a fly in the sea. She rattled the cage and screamed, "Let me out of here right now! Just you wait until Kareem gets here. He'll put you in a bottle, and you know what I will do then? I'll spit in it, that's what." Suddenly, all the other cages fell silent. Hundreds of pairs of eyes were fixed on Emma. "Kareem?" With a growl that sounded like a hungry lion, Sahim sat up in his hammock. "What do you, little slug, know of Kareem?" "There no longer is any Kareem. I threw him into the sea. Do you want to see his nose ring?" Sahim flicked his finger against the ring hanging from his oversized earlobe. "There it is. Looks good on me, doesn't it?" And now let me sleep, or I'll dip you and your dog in honey after all." The genie turned away with an angry grunt and started snoring again. The spiders came crawling out of his turban and began to mend the threads of the web that had torn under Sahim's weight. The golden cages were oozing despair. "You do believe that Kareem will come to rescue us?" Emma whispered to Tristan. He licked her nose, definitely an encouraging answer. "Then everything's fine," she mumbled, and she dug her face into his back. But sleeping in a cage wasn't easy, even if it was a gold one. I'm going to read chapter 7, okay? So chapter 7 is called A Cool Wind. It turned out to be a horrible night, even more horrible than when one of Emma's brothers had poured dishwashing soap into her nose. Tristan slept as though he was in the most peaceful place on earth, but Emma couldn't keep her eyes closed. "I shouldn't have opened that bottle," she said. She thought it at least 335 times while she stared into the darkness. The yellow genie snored so loudly that her ears began to hurt. A new day dawned, but the only sign of that was a few stray rays of sunshine trickling through the old walls and onto Sahim's nose. After his breakfast, which consisted of countless little fragrant cakes, the yellow genie set off to pay a visit to Barakash's neighboring kingdom. His pale servants dusted the treasure with peacock feathers and threw dried bread into the cages. Most of the animals in Sahim's collection were ones Emma had never seen before, but there were also sand-colored foxes with bat-like ears, lizards with spikes on their tails, and long-necked flamingos that poked their beaks through the bars. Emma wondered how long they'd been here. With every hour she spent in her awful cage, her hope that Kareem would come to rescue her shrank a little more. And when Sahim returned that evening to drop into his spiderweb, that hope was barely as big as a pea, a very, very small pea. The yellow genie devoured a sack of pomegranates and 13 cinnamon cakes before going to sleep. The torches died one by one until Sahim's pale yellow belly was the only thing glowing in the dark, and Emma felt a tear run down her cheek. "Oh, Tristan, I don't think Kareem will come," she whispered. "Would you mind cheering me up a bit? You could lick that tear off my cheek, maybe." But Tristan just lifted his head. A cool breeze brushed over Emma's face. It drifted so cool and damp through the old palace that Sahim shuddered in his sleep and tossed and turned on his hammock. "Kareem," Emma breathed. "Shh," came the reply, and a heartbeat later Kareem's flying carpet appeared from the darkness. Kneeling next to the blue genie were Maximum and the dromedary. "My mistress, forgive us for coming only now," Kareem whispered, "but this palace wasn't easy to find. Luckily, the forever hungry dromedary has a fine nose." The dromedary snorted and cast a bored glance around the hall. Maymun pulled a bunch of keys from his gold-embroidered cloak. "This time, Sahim really went too far," he whispered, while he unlocked Emma's cage with trembling hands. "Capturing my guests. Does he think I'll let him get away with everything? You look even paler than before, O flower of a cold land." "Where did you get the keys?" Emma whispered. As she stepped on the carpet, she decided she did like Maymun after all. "We took them off two fellows who looked even paler than you," Maymun answered quietly. "We stuffed them into Kareem's bottle, but they didn't have his nose ring." "Of course not," Emma whispered back, "because Siam is wearing it as an earring." Mayum cast a worried look at the yellow genie. Kareem, however, seemed so angry that his color changed until his bald head looked like a very ripe blue grape. "My nose ring? On his ear?" he growled. "How dare he? That son of a slimy snail of a tailless dog?" "Oh, forgive me," Kareem bowed to Tristan. "Forgive me, kind of all dogs. King of all dogs. That just slipped out." Tristan smacked his lips and sniffed the dromedary's backside. Kareem drifted silently into the air. "Wait here," he breathed. And before Maymun or Emma realized what he was doing, he was already drifting like a pale blue balloon toward Siam's spiderweb hammock. Kareem looked so ridiculously small compared to the yellow genie that Emma's fear nearly made her forget to breathe. Siam snorted in his sleep and he rubbed his fat belly. 15 black spiders were sitting on it. "Please keep sleeping, you monster," Emma whispered. "Please." Nothing moved in the other cages. All of the yellow genie's prisoners seemed to be fast asleep. Only one of the flamingos pulled its head out from under its wing and stared at the flying carpet. Kareem was now only an arm's length from Sahim's mustard yellow earlobe. "Oh, please hurry, Kareem," Emma heard Maymun mutter. Something rustled beneath them. The flamingo had pushed its beak through the bars. "Maymun, didn't you say Siam stole your tame flamingos?" Emma whispered. "Is that one of them over there?" "Where?" Maymun asked. He turned around. The bird with the crooked beak let out a blood-curdling screech of joy as it recognized its former master. The barberry sheep lifted their heads and began to bleat. The gold jackals barked, and the desert monitors hissed. And Sahim woke up. With a howl, the yellow genie shot up from his hammock just as Kareem's fingers closed around the ring. "Ah! What is this?" Sahim bellowed. He shook his head so hard that the spiders and scorpions scattered from his turban. Sahim's yellow fingers reached for his ear, which Kareem was dangling from like a blue gemstone. "Kareem, you miserable pipe of grape! That can't be you!" Sahim boomed while Kareem wiggled like an eel to avoid his fingers. "Just you wait. I shall crack you open like a bug." "We have to help him, Maymun," Emma screamed. "Or do you want to watch him be crushed?" "Yalla!" she shouted, grabbing the fringe of the carpet, forgetting in her excitement that she only knew the order for landing. The carpet lurched downward. The dromedary fell over and Maymun nearly dropped headfirst into a jug. Tristan just managed to catch his trouser leg. "What are you doing?" Maymun screeched. He pulled Emma's fingers off the carpet and only barely steered the carpet clear of a giant spiderweb. But as he turned it, Sahim's burning eyes were already fixed on them. "And who do we have here?" he boomed. "The Caliph of Barakash delivers his dromedary to me in person. Or did you come to steal my little sandy head?" The dromedary hit its head behind Maymun's back, and Tristan growled so loudly that his entire body trembled. Emma couldn't take her eyes off Kareem, who was still hanging on to his nose ring. And trying to pull it off Sahim's earlobe. "Yes, exactly. That's why I'm here, you thieving sack of mustard," Maymun screamed as loudly as he could up at the yellow cat eyes. "I am taking it all back, everything you stole from me, and then I will release your prisoners." "Really?" Sahim growled. His eyes narrowed. He took a deep breath and blew them all off the carpet. "I knew it! I shouldn't have opened that bottle," Emma thought as she fell. A sticky spiderweb slowed her fall a little, but she still landed hard on a pile of dusty carpets. Tristan dropped onto her belly. The dromedary landed on its own hump, and Maymun went headfirst into a giant clay jar. With a nasty grin, Sahim reached for his earlobe again, and this time he managed to grab hold of Kareem, despite how hard the blue genie kicked and wiggled. "Let go of the ring, you bluebird brain," Sahim growled. "It is mine," Kareem shouted. "Let go," Sahim howled. He yanked so hard at Kareem's leg that his earlobe stretched like a piece of yellow chewing gum. Then it happened. Suddenly, the nose ring opened. Sahim howled and grabbed his ear, but it was too late. Kareem was already fixing the ring to his shrunken nose. And finally, He grew. Till tomorrow.